ask?
The ABCs of nutrition are the basics. Like you said before, it's like, what is a protein? What is a fat? What is a carbohydrate? Where do they come from? What are the best ones to eat? What do they do for you? And how much is enough? That's what we're going to cover tonight.
Glad I asked. And this will be a series of 12 shows. No.
This will go on.
I'm telling you, what is the balanced nutrition all about?
Well, a balanced nutrition setup for a person is about balancing proteins to fats to carbohydrates. And the problems with most Americans, as you know, Kurt, just from us talking as much as we do, is that Americans consume way too many carbohydrates, and those carbohydrates tend to be what we call dead or empty calorie foods or doughy foods. And doughy foods tend to make people doughy. So what we're doing here in America is people are following the food pyramid, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. And what we're looking at is people who are consuming great amounts of what we call pastas and breads and bagels and coffee and diet sodas and colas are basically consuming dead foods that bring nothing to the table nutritionally, that will give them absolutely no nutritional benefits, like loads of vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals, which we'll get into too.
I see. What is a high nutrient dense diet?
Well, I hope it's a catchphrase that's going to catch on, actually. A high nutrient dense diet means that the foods that you choose to put into your body are whole live foods, and they contain vital amounts of nutrients. You know, so this apple or this orange or this big, plate of paella with whole grain rices and lean fish, and non-creamy sauces will bring to your body a great deal of energy. Foods are energy to us. They're our gas in our tank, so to speak. You have a car, you put gasoline in it. You can put in, leaded, you can put in unleaded, you can put in premium high octane. And the same goes for food. You can put in foods that just take up space. They're bulk, they're dense, they're filling.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Or you can put in foods that give you a little bit of, supplementation to your diet, that give you some live nutrients. Or you can give yourself foods that are just packed with live nutrients. So the more live nutrients we get, the happier your cells are. The more your cells are just rebounding with excitement, and they become motivated by these vital nutrients, vitamin C, B1, B2, B6, B12, folic acid, which are found in our grains and our beans and legumes, and our meat products, our red meat products. Our minerals are loaded, just found loaded in our meat products, providing, most of those are organic. That also helps a little bit. Anything that's grown in soil is supposed to be high in minerals. However, since we've overburdened our soils with pesticide residues and different kinds of insecticides and whatnot, we've wiped out available minerals. But minerals are found primarily in organic foods, and again, anything that comes out of the earth.
Oh, I see.
So
how can I put this? What can a live food diet do for someone?
Well, a live food diet is...
You knew I had to come back to that.
Yeah.
You start with live and dead and this, and we'll cover this, folks. If you're confused.
Live food diet can make a world of difference, Kurt. I'll tell you just some real quick, interesting case studies. You know that I work in my practice as a clinical nutritionist, so I see people every single day who are
live people
who are not doing so well, actually.
Okay.
We'll just give you a case in point. I had a sweet woman who came in about 3 weeks ago, and she's going through chemotherapy, and she's only 38 years old. Cancer popped up in her breast, and then it spread to her lymphs, and she has a couple tumors in different places. And the doctor told her she has to stay on chemotherapy for the rest of her life, which is pretty amazing. I've not heard of this, but
no.
She didn't speak English extraordinarily well, but we spoke, and after a while I came to realize she had 5 places where different tumors were growing in the system. And she has 3 little kids. Just a sweet lady. So her chemo knocks her out of the box so badly that she can't function for 8 days after she has chemo. And she has 2 types. One is she has more of a reaction to than the other. And she has them 3 weeks apart. So it's 3 weeks, and then she's out of the box for almost a week or a week and a half after each series. Well, she came to me, and her chemo was delayed for some reason by a week, and she started on, the clearing products and all the support products I had put her on. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. One was a powder, a really great powder with lots of vitamins and minerals. And she went to her chemo about 10 days later than she anticipated, and she was in bed only 1 day after her chemo. So, she still does not have great color, but that's going to take some time. So I gave her some more nutrients because she's beginning to digest better, and she's feeling a little bit more energy. I had another woman who came in. Her cholesterol was in the 300s. had that very pasty, ashy color that people get when, their heart's not getting enough oxygen, much like smokers have. And within the course of, it was 60 days, we redid her blood test. She took her cholesterol, her triglycerides were in the 400s, her cholesterol was in the 300s, her LDLs, the bad lipids, her total bad lipids were like 289. She was a walking heart attack. She was in her late 40s, and within 60 days, her cholesterol came down to like 215, her triglycerides came down to 140, and her total blood count, her LDLs, came down to 150. Still not perfect, but in the high end of the norms.
Yes.
So within 60 days. So you're seeing foods as therapeutic agents if you really believe what the Bible says, for instance, and look at the Old Testament when they talk about foods in the Old Testament. Honestly, you can heal yourself with foods. Everything we need to heal ourselves is here on this earth. It's all over the place. There's a cornucopia of nutrients. Phytochemicals are like the new kids on the block. That's the green, the green component of plants, and the orange component of fruits, and the red component of fruits contain these chemicals called phytochemicals, PHY. Not phyto, but they do fight.
Well, they do fight. I see.
Right, and now everybody is like encapsulating phytochemicals. Well, if you would just eat a live food diet that's high in nutrients, you would create this arsenal in the body of ammo that is a fighter against, free radical activity and invaders and bacteria and parasites and radiation, which we're exposed to a great deal just because we live in it. Bad air, lots of lead in the air.
Lots of lead in the air. That's
Sure.
interesting. That's interesting. There's something about are called the food pyramid.
Right.
And I'd like to get your comments on that. What do you think is current? What do you think of the current one? And
The
what do you
new
think
food
of it?
pyramid that came out a few years ago,
Yes.
well, I'm in total disagreement with it. I believe it's pretty much upside down, with the exception that they've got sweets and desserts and, our highly processed, refined foods at the very top of the pyramid. Right now, the current food pyramid put out by the ADA shows that Americans, again, should be consuming breads and bagels and pastas and grains. Well, the problem, if you tell an American or most people to consume starch, they'll consume buns and bagels. They won't consume, organic potatoes with the skin on them and lots of beans and legumes, not out of the can but made fresh. They will not consume whole grain wild rices every day. They consume the starchy stuff that's packaged, the Doritos and the Fritos, and it's fast and it's easy. There's a world of difference in the nutritional status of those two food groups. There are what we call dead foods, there are live foods, and there are deader than dead. They're the robbers. So the live foods are the whole grains and things that contain a lot of vitamins and minerals. Those should be at the base of the food pyramid, but not at the very bottom. At the very bottom, I would encourage people to consider fruits and vegetables. And the reason for that is because fruits and vegetables, A, are high in fiber, B, they're high in water, C, there was a wonderful study by the American Cancer Society a couple of years ago that showed that if Americans consume 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, they would alleviate the onset of cancer in 86% of the cases.
Oh, that's incredible.
9
Wait a minute,
servings.
Nine servings?
Yes.
9?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's impressive. So how many people eat, 3 pieces of fruit a day and at least 2 to 4 cups of steamed vegetables or 8 cups of raw vegetables? I don't know many.
No, I don't either.
More and more because I'm
Fascinating.
encouraging it, but but certainly not, not many because it's too difficult. People are into eating fast and therefore they are sick, more sickly in this society. So at the bottom of the food pyramid, I would put fruits and vegetables. Second to that, I would put lean proteins, not starches.
I see.
I would actually divide it with lean proteins, between lean proteins and I would put grains over on the other side, like whole grains and potatoes and things like that. Okay? And then I would go ahead and put on, the starches, the doughy starches, and then I would put on the sugary treats. And basically, you base this on what we call the glycemic index of foods. The glycemic index of foods is basically a sugar index that shows you how much nutritional value certain foods have in comparison to others based on sugars. So the lower glycemic foods are vegetables first. They have a glycemic index of 10 to 20. Fruits are 20 to 30. Then our starchy or complex carbohydrates, our whole grains and beans and legumes and rices, are 40, 50, and 60. Okay, then we go up to our bagels and our cereals and our carrots and bananas. Even though they're healthy, they're very high in simple sugar. And those are in the 80s.
I see. Okay.
70s, 80s, and 90s. And then we have the 100 plus Well, the glycemic index is 0 to 100. Now, 100 plus, if you're looking at foods above 60, you're very high in sugar. And those high sugar foods convert to what in the body? Fat.
Absolutely.
So Americans are consuming too many sugars now because they're not consuming any fats or oils, very low protein, and what's left to eat. If you don't do butter and you don't do margarine and you don't do eggs and you don't do beef anymore, what's left? Doughy foods.
Doughy foods.
So the food pyramid is upside down.
That's a good point. Now, I noticed you mentioned protein, and I won't get into, protein, who eats it and who doesn't, but tell us about proteins.
Okay.
How important are they? Where should they come from? How much is enough?
Okay, proteins are very important in the diet. At least consider consuming, a good portion for your body size. What I'm saying is Americans are consuming maybe a burger a day. That's absurd. First of all, the quality of that protein is low. So let's talk about the types of protein that are best. The types of protein that are best are what we call high BV value. And those proteins have a high biological value, meaning that they're biologically very available to the system. The body likes them. With those good high-quality proteins, the body can regenerate, heal itself, and repair itself. Your need for protein, Kurt, I may add, goes up, folks, by double to 3 times more when you have any kind of stress or trauma or injury or surgery or sepsis, or if you're a child. So children need more protein, certainly, than adults do for their size. That's first of all. So the good high biological valued proteins are, of course, our fish. Cold water fish are best, or farmed fish are very good. And then our lean chickens and turkeys and very lean beefs. Again, our wild gamey meats are wonderful. Our venison and our duck and our buffalo, anything that runs around and gets exercise in the open, isn't caged and penned in. First of all, is a happy guy. And second of all, that increases good endorphins in the body. And then you also have a hormonally efficient animal that is low in what we call saturated fat and cholesterol. And it has a high percentage of the unsaturated fatty acids, which are very beneficial.
I feel like I'm getting set up here. The way you bring up fats and oils, and I think that's what we need to know about. Tell us about
Did I answer all your
fats and
questions?
oils. Yeah, I think actually,
About
where
weight.
should they, how much is enough?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a very good question. How much is enough? Most people don't consume enough protein. So if you don't eat enough protein or enough of the good raw unsaturated oils, you're going to crave carbohydrates like crazy. Like crazy. You'll be like, give me sugar now. I've got to have it, got to eat it. So it's really important to eat enough for your own body weight. And I'm 145 pounds, and I would suggest that someone my size consume at least 10 to 12 ounces of protein a day. Okay, so go figure. If a guy's twice my body weight or another, third of my body weight, he should be up around 15 to 16 ounces a day. You can count ounces or grams. That's a lot. You can use protein powders to supplement. But I personally look at eating at least 98 grams of protein a day for a 145-pound person. So, your percentage of muscle to fat, create some variance there, but for the most part, if you're physically active, I work out cardio 3 days a week, I lift weights 3 days a week. So, I could eat more protein. I could use more. It's just not time, no.
Don't have time.
But I'm doing better than most Americans, and because of that, I don't need to watch my weight as diligently as somebody who does a lot of doughy foods.
Okay.
So, what someone can do actually is this formula. So take out your pens, write this down. You can actually take your own body weight, divide that by 2.2, okay, and take the number that you've divided, multiply it times 1.5, and that will tell you how many grams of protein you need a day. And then you'll take the total number of grams, divide by 7, because there's 7 grams per ounce, and you'll get the number of ounces.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Should I repeat that?
Yes, because I think there's something.
Okay,